My name is Ria. I'm from India and I'm a geology major here at Tech. Today I'm here to talk to you about my language of India, Hindi. It's one of the official languages in India, but it's not the official language and not all of India speaks it. So I'm going to be sharing the language, the alphabets, how it came to be, that is its history, and we'll also be learning few words and phrases. So let's start by learning how many people actually speak it. According to a 2011 census, it is said that about 340 million people speak it, making it the fourth most spoken language, first language in the world. Outside of India, it's also spoken in Nepal, in Fiji, where it's one of the official languages. It's also spoken in South Africa and also in the Caribbean islands. Now let's talk something about the history of Hindi language, that is how it came into India and how it became so widespread. So Hindi is said to have evolved from Sanskrit, which is an ancient language also from the Indian subcontinent, and it's about like 4,000 years old. Now this evolution was not direct, that is, Sanskrit did not just become Hindi. There were some intermediate languages which today we call Old Hindi. This Old Hindi was influenced by a lot of different languages when Indian subcontinent was under the rule of Islamic dynasties and then also the British colonial rule. So we have influence from Persian language, we have influence from Arabic language, we have influence from Turkish languages and also English. So as a result, we have a lot of loan words, that is, we use a lot of words that are from different languages in Hindi. For example, we have Persian word for orange, which is narangi. We have the Arabic word aurat, which means woman. We have English words such as botal, doctor, and we also use Portuguese words because there were parts of India that were also under the Portuguese rule. As I mentioned before, not all of India speaks Hindi. Only northern states are the ones that actually do speak Hindi. The rest of the states mostly have their own language, and even the states that do speak Hindi have their own language. As a result of this, when the individual states they do speak Hindi, they have their own dialects. As of 2011, there are 48 officially recognized dialects in India. So let's move on and learn about vowels and consonants. The chosen script for Hindi is Devanagari, which has 12 vowels and 36 consonants. I haven't written down all the 36 consonants, but the 33 that are important are written down here. Let's go over them and hear how they actually sound. The vowels are A, I, U, E, I, O, Au, Aha. Now the vowel sound is the base sound for all of the consonants. Listen to me while I speak. It's K, K, G, Gh, R, Ch, Ch, J, Jh, Y, T, Th, D, Dh, R, T, Th, D, Th, N, P, F, B, Bh, M, Y, R, L, V, Sh, Sh, S, H. Now let's learn how to write in Hindi. So our words are written exactly how they are pronounced, and the letters and alphabets in the word can also show how strong the emphasis on that sound is. If a word starts with a vowel sound, the letter in the first column is written, which are all of these. But if the vowel differentiates the way the consonant sounds, the letter or the symbol in the last column, which are all of these, are generally added with the consonants. And what I mean by that will be clear when we look at an example of writing a word in Hindi. Before that, let's also look at how consonant sounds are broken down in English. Now, not all of the Hindi alphabets or the Devanagari alphabets can be sounded out by the English alphabets, and that's because a lot of our sounds are not as prevalent in English. For example, k, dh, dh. These are all sounds that someone who speaks English as the first language might find difficult to pronounce, and that's why I couldn't really sound them out using English alphabets. And again, this is not the list of all the consonants in Devanagari, but most words can be formed using these alphabets. So now let's begin forming a word in Hindi or Devanagari. So the first word we're going to form in Hindi is Hindi. Hindi, the word Hindi has the sounds of h, e, n, the, and a longer e, which in Hindi we call badi e. That is, you have a longer emphasis on the e, and that's this vowel. So the first letter or the consonant we can hear is h. Accompanying that is a short emphasis on e, which is this. Since it's accompanying the consonant, we use the symbol for choti e or the short emphasis on e. Then we have na. Now notice in the word Hindi, we don't say the na with a full emphasis, which is why we don't use a full na. This just shows that this is not going to be a full na. When another consonant is added after that, you see how this na is just half of it. Now the next consonant we can hear is the, which goes with the na, the half na. And along with the, we have the badi e or the long emphasis e, the symbol for which is just kind of like this, but on the other side. So now we have the word Hindi. Notice how we have this horizontal line on top of the word. That's just used to separate each word from the other. So any word that comes after that, you'd have a space in between, and then the next word would all come under the blanket of this horizontal line. Now, for the next word, we learn how to write the word language in Hindi, which is bhasha. Bhasha has four sounds. One is bh, two as, and one sh. Let's start with bh. Add a to it, bha, then the sh, then again a. We have the word bhasha all under this horizontal line, giving us the word bhasha in Hindi. So now we know Hindi bhasha and how to write Hindi bhasha. So congratulations. So now let's learn some words and phrases in Hindi. To greet someone, we say namaste. Whenever you begin a conversation with someone who speaks in Hindi, you can start by saying namaste, and then to ask how they're doing, how are you, say aap kaise hain. Now aap is a word we generally use to address someone we want to, who's an elder maybe, who's someone respected, or someone you just met. If it's a more formal conversation, so like with a friend, with someone who's the same age as you can say tum kaise ho. If it's even more formal, more casual, more informal and casual. So maybe with a very close friend, someone you're extremely comfortable with, you can just say "तू कैसा है" or "तू कैसी है." Kaisa is for if you're referring to someone who's male. Kaisi if someone's a female. Now to respond to a question that says "आप कैसे हो" or "how are you doing," you say "मैं ठीक हूँ," which means I am good. Now to introduce yourself to someone, you'd say "मेरा नाम रिया है," which means my name is Riya. Now मेरा नाम, whatever your name is, hai is how you introduce yourself. Moving on, to thank someone, you would say dhanyavad, which is just thank you. To say no problem at all, you'd say koi baat nahi. To apologize to someone, you'd say mujhe maaf kijiye, which is not as much as saying sorry, but it's asking for forgiveness, which is the literal translation. To agree to someone, you say हाँ or ठीक है. To disagree, you said ना or नहीं. To say good morning, you say Shubh Prabhat, and that's also with the folded palms. And then good night is Shubh Ratri. To welcome someone to your place, you say आपका स्वागत है. आप again is the more formal way of talking, so you could say आपका स्वागत है or तुम्हारा स्वागत है. To say please, you say कृपया. To congratulate someone, you say बधाई हो. If you have to say goodbye, you say अलविदा, which is a Urdu word. Urdu is kind of like Hindi, but it has more Persian and Arabic influence on it, and it's spoken mostly in Pakistan today. But even in Hindi you could say alvida, or you could say मैं चलता हूँ. A word for friend would be dost, साथी or यार. And those are some words and phrases that you could use when you're trying to communicate with someone who speaks in Hindi. Before I end this video, I just wanted to share a fun fact in Hindi to compare how idioms in Hindi and English can differ. You all may know the saying "as wise as an owl," which is a common saying in English, but in Hindi we use the word owl as a metaphor for the unwise. That is, we say "ullu ka patta," which is basically son of an owl, and it's used to refer to someone who's not very wise and who's a fool. So next time someone calls you an owl, you might want to remember that you may be wise in English, but in Hindi you're probably a fool. Thank you.